Where is God calling your student? At Judson College, we equip students to give their lives for the cause of Christ, wherever He calls them, whether that be the mission field, the workplace, or the local church. With more than 25 majors and 4 5-year bachelor's to master's programs, Judson College combines the best of conservative, biblical, and theological education with professional training in a vibrant Christian community. Learn more about how your students can be prepared to leverage their lives for the cause of Christ by visiting judsoncollege.com.
If you're looking for homeschool sanity, welcome. I'm Dr. Melanie Wilson, Christian psychologist turned homeschool mom and curriculum author. But I was once so disorganized, I thought I had to quit homeschooling and stop having kids. Now, by the grace of God, I have 6 homeschool graduates. Whether we're discussing parenting, productivity, or practical tips, I pray that this episode is just what you need for happy, healthy homeschooling. Thank you to Judson College for sponsoring this episode of the Homeschool Sanity Show. Hey, homeschoolers, it's finally summer here. If you're anything like me, you use the summer to review your homeschooling approach. What worked, what didn't, and what will you do this year? One approach that I was interested in, and I know many of you are too, is homeschooling along the way, less dependent on curriculum. If you're interested in unschooling, I know you'll enjoy hearing from my guest, Danielle Papageorgio. Danielle is married to John, and together they have 2 homeschool graduates and a 13-year-old. She has been homeschooling or life schooling for 23 years and has a passion for helping other moms learn how to homeschool in a way that enhances rather than competes with family life. Through her life schooling book, blog, resources, and community, she helps parents see the educational value in everyday life and focus on developing their child's God-given gifts so they can raise world changers. You can find her book, Life Schooling, Learning to Think Outside the Curriculum Box, at lifeschoolingbook.com. Here's our chat. Danielle, I am so excited that you are here on the Homeschool Sanity Show to talk with us about life schooling. But before we dive into that topic, I would love to have you introduce yourself. Tell us more about you and your family.
Sure. Well, it's so great to be here, Melanie, and thank you for inviting me. I'm Danielle Papageorgio. It's spelled like Danielle, pronounced Danielle. And I've been married to my husband, John, for 26 years now. We have 3 children. 2 of them are adults and graduated. So yay, I did it. And then we have a 13-year-old. So we've got a big gap there. It keeps my foot in the homeschooling world. My oldest is married, and they're going to have our first grandbaby this fall. So I'm super excited.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And then I have a daughter. She's getting married this fall also. And then my 13-year-old is Corbin. He's the youngest. So he's a boy. Yeah.
All right.
So it keeps me busy, but it's good.
Yes, I love it. So what I like to ask all of my guests who have homeschooled is why they chose to homeschool initially. So could you take us back to the beginning and talk about that?
Yes. Well, it's probably like a lot of people, it kind of was a default choice. I know there's a lot of people that like that's just their conviction and they're like, yes, we must, we're going to homeschool, we're going to disciple our children. And I didn't understand that view at all. We lived in California at the time. My husband didn't have a very big salary, and I knew we are not putting our kids into public education in California. So it was just like, I guess we'll homeschool because we can't afford Christian school. So that was sort of our thinking. And as it turned out, we actually moved from California back over to the East Coast anyway. So it was it didn't matter, but we still ended up homeschooling. So I don't even remember where that changed, like how I just decided that we're going to do that anyway, or how we both decided. My husband had been homeschooled for, I think, just a year in kindergarten, and he loved it. So I think that was kind of a big factor with why we just thought, okay, well, we'll do it.
All right. I hear that more and more now, of
Yeah.
course, as homeschooled kids have grown up and had families of their own.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so you then had a philosophy that is called life schooling.
hmm
So, for those who are unfamiliar with the term, what is life schooling and how is it different from other homeschooling approaches like unschooling or Charlotte Mason?
Well, I like to say it's actually very similar to what a lot of people call Christian unschooling. Um, I just wasn't comfortable with that term, and I wanted to come up with something that described what we were doing. So years ago, we started a conference, and I had to have a name for it. And it was really such a cool thing because I really feel the Lord gave me that name. I woke up one morning with it just on my heart. I'm like, life schooling. That's what we're going to call it, the life schooling conference. So in that process, I came up with this definition, and I'm always really bad about saying it off the top of my head. So I'm going to give it a shot because it's kind of long, but it really encompasses everything that was on my heart that I really wanted to do with my kids. So it's the individualized process of discovering your child's God-given gifts and talents, primarily through real life experiences that happen within the context of your family's situations and missions. It's really long.
Wow, but
So
it's very good.
yeah, it kind of covers it all. But I
Hmm.
summarize it, just to sum it up, it's really life integrated, gifts focused homeschooling. So you can raise a world changer because we all want to raise world changers for Jesus. We want to help our children discover who God made them to be, what their mission in life is, so that they can go out and do these things for the Lord, for his kingdom. And that's really what my passion is. So that summarizes it.
All right. Very good. Well, many homeschooling parents, especially beginners, feel pressure to follow a more traditional school model at home. What helped you break free from that mindset and embrace a life schooling approach?
Well, Melanie, it's just my personality. I was never a really academic kind of person. I'm very outside the box. I'm a creative thinker. I'm a writer. I'm an artist. I never fit in that box. And I'm more laid back. So it just felt natural to do things differently with my kids. And my son, interestingly, he's my oldest son. He's very academic and he would have done great with the workbooks and all of that stuff. And he's still like he loves to learn. So he'll dig into topics and he'll research and all that kind of stuff. But it was just I just can't do things that way. It's very hard for me. So the Lord is so gracious and it doesn't matter what your personality is. It doesn't matter what your strengths and your weaknesses are. We just come and we give him our best every day as homeschool moms. And so that's what I did. And it just sort of developed from there. And yeah, and I just developed kind of this philosophy of what we were doing because really kids do learn so much from just everyday life and from exploring the things that they're passionate about. They have that inborn love of learning. And I think one of
Hmm.
our jobs as parents, we need to be so careful to not kill that. And I think oftentimes academics, the way that we do school, it really kills that a lot of times. So that's one of the things I try to be very careful of to not kill that love of learning.
Hmm. That's excellent. So you were mentioning having God-given gifts in each of your children that all of us as parents can recognize, but how can we recognize what those particular gifts are so that we can nurture those in everyday life?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's a question I get a lot because some kids, it's just right there. Like they're born and it's like, oh, wow, you are an artist or you are, I don't know, a writer. Um, and that's very much how it was with my older two in particular. My youngest one, he's got a lot of gifts too, but it's kind of, we're still figuring that out. But like my daughter, she at 4 years old was drawing these pictures. They were in perspective. So some kids, you see this right away, and it's pretty easy to help them nurture that and to develop that in them. Other kids, not so much. And I think that a lot of times we can really succumb to this fear. There's a lot of fear in homeschooling, and it's really unfortunate because the Bible promises us that if we seek first God's kingdom and his righteousness, all these things will be added to you. Matthew 6:33, that's like my theme verse of life schooling, because it is a walk of faith. And homeschooling in any form or fashion, whatever method you use, it's a walk of faith. And I think when you're doing things really outside the box, not just homeschooling, but then doing a form of homeschooling that even homeschoolers go, oh, okay. It's even more so a walk of faith. And it can feel scary when it's like, I don't know what my child likes. But this is where I think it's so important to just allow your kids to have the time to discover who they are. One of the things I talk about in the book that I just published called Life Schooling, Learning to Think Outside the Curriculum Box, one of the things that I talk about and go through is something I call the 4 E's of life schooling. And this really is like a process of how we can help our kids discover who they are, what gifts are in them, and then helping to develop them. So the first E is exploration. And that's just reading, playing, just as they're young and they're getting to explore their world. That is so valuable, and so much is learned just through reading and playing throughout our lives. Like, playing doesn't really end, like if you're a musician, you still have jam sessions, and we want to continue to encourage that, because this is how we learn, and it's been proven through scientific studies how much children learn through play. Like, you don't sit down and teach a baby. You don't have language lessons. Like today in English, you don't do this. Like, it's ridiculous. But then somehow we think at age 5 or 4, all of a sudden they've got to sit down in a desk and we have to teach them. We have to push this knowledge into them. And that's just not how it works. So that exploration phase, it goes on through life. But then the second phase I call experience. And that's more of the like walking alongside mom and dad, like it talks about in Deuteronomy, as you sit, as you walk. Doing chores every day. Work is so important. Instilling good character in your children is like the key foundation, one of the foundational things that we need to do with our kids. Because if they have that good character, it's going to affect everything, including their education and how much they want to learn and pursue. So that's the second phase. The third phase is expert engagement. So as they're going through these phases, you start to see the sparks showing up. You start to notice things. That's our job, is to observe. I think that's one of our biggest jobs, honestly, Melanie, is to observe our children and to provide them opportunities and resources so that they can just run with their passions. And so this expert engagement phase, this is after you're starting to really see, okay, I think we need to do more in this area or this area. And you find mentors for them. You find good, solid Christians in your church who maybe have a business or have some experience in, let's say, woodworking or whatever. And hey, can my child come and shadow you a couple times a week or once a week, whatever. And then finally, you have the entrepreneurship phase. And this is where they have developed these gifts. And then they go and they learn more about entrepreneurship. Doesn't mean they have to become an entrepreneur, but we live in a capitalistic society. It's good to understand how it works and to see where their gifts fit so they can serve in the marketplace. We have this mentality about entrepreneurship and making money like it's bad or it's evil. Well, the Bible talks about, there's a verse that I love, and I'm not going to be able to quote it properly, but it's about people bless the man who sells his grain and doesn't hold it back. It doesn't say gives, it says sells. So there is something noble and good about using the talents that God has given us, serving others and being paid for that. There's an example that one author uses. He wrote a book called Thou Shalt Prosper. Excellent book. But he calls it Certificates of Appreciation. So if you think of money that way, people are just saying thank you. And that's the way they say thank you. So that's a really long answer, but it's really important that, again, that we become students of our students and learn who they are as they walk through life with us and as we disciple them. And then we nurture those gifts. And I have resources that help people do this as well, but it's really just, you can journal, you don't have to buy my resources, but just keep a journal and every day write down those things. In my Who Is This Child journal, there's one section that is daily sparks. So you just write down things that, okay, they asked questions about this and seemed interested in this. I'm going to write that down. And then there's a couple other sections in there. But basically, day by day, you'll start to see these patterns develop, things that they're constantly coming back to. And then you do like a monthly evaluation so you can get a feel. And then there's like a yearly evaluation. And that helps you really decide for the next year, what are we going to hone in on with this child? So it's a long answer, but I know it's something a lot of people struggle with, and they want to know, like, how do this child, I don't know what gifts they have. And that's how.
Right. Well, I love it. I think you were very thorough, but it wasn't too much.
Okay. I don't want to overwhelm anyone.
No, it wasn't too much. Okay. So critics have said that any type of unschooling approach, which it sounds like life schooling is maybe in that category, although you don't like that term, but with that, some would say that it sounds too relaxed or too unstructured. How do you respond to that critique?
Yes, that is another very common critique. And I think it's a valid one. There are definitely those who are too relaxed. And I will just be honest that would be the side of things that I fall on, I struggle with. But again, God is so gracious. My 2 adult children are successful and they're doing great in life, godly kids. But I think it's something you just have to, routines are really important for children. So as much as you can, you may not be someone who can schedule things really strictly, like at this time we're doing this, at this time we're doing that. Like, that's not me at all. Mm-hmm. But we do have a routine that we follow every day. And I think that is important. And just to, I think one of the things that, I think it was part of this question, you sent me ahead of time, so I'll just say that. You mentioned about, along these lines, academic rigor, people being concerned about there's not enough academic rigor. And I really pondered that for a while because it's funny. That term, I have this kind of reaction to it. And I thought, why is that? So I really did a lot of self-reflection on that. And I think some of that is because those of us who went through the system and we were outside the box and we were creative, it was like torture sometimes. And so I have this connotation of the word academic rigor that's really negative and really, it makes me think of piles of books I don't want to read and spending all my time learning about things I don't want to learn about. And being majorly stressed out. I literally, in college, my last semester, I lost weight and I did not have weight to lose. It was so stressful. And I was planning a wedding and I was planning an art show. And it's like, that's not really healthy. But at the same time, it's like we want to do everything with excellence. And we want our children to learn everything they need to so that they can be productive in life, right? So it's this push and pull feeling that I have. And so I actually went and I looked up that term, academic rigor. And I'm going to read you, I looked it up in Perplexity, which is an AI engine. And this is what it said. And I love this. It helps me. Academic rigor refers to the creation of an educational environment where students are expected, supported, and required to learn at high levels, demonstrating mastery through complex thinking and application this is a key, rather than rote memorization and workload alone. I was like, okay, I can get behind that. But here's the thing, Melanie, that's, like really, I don't like rote memorization and like heavy workload. I don't know that that's really beneficial. And there's a lot of studies that I think would back me up on that. But here's the interesting thing. Life schooling will accomplish this. If you teach your children to have good care, like the foundation has to be God's word. You have to pour into them in those young years. And believe me, because I haven't done as well with my third one, it's a parent thing. The youngest one, they get off easier in some ways, but, and in other ways you do things better, but really pouring into them, teaching them to work hard, teaching them how to love the Lord, like have your devotions every day, spend time with Jesus, getting to their hearts. Why are they making decisions they're making? And what's going on in their hearts? What are they? Be concerned about your children. Have those heart-to-heart talks. If you pour into them in those younger years, and if you provide resources for the things they're interested in, and you provide time for them to pursue what they're interested in, they will do it. And you don't have to be the like taskmaster, like do your English and do your math. Did you catch up with your history? And like, we don't want to do that, right? Like that's not pleasant for anybody. We want them to own their education. We want them to own what they're pursuing and what they want to do in life. So it's helping them to have an internal drive rather than this external, we're going to have an academically rigorous curriculum, So it will be that, ironically, if you can make the main thing, which is their heart and their relationship with the Lord, and then you can help them to find who they are and what they want to do and give them time and resources. It sounds so simple, and it kind of, it's simple, but it isn't easy. It requires faith, and it requires us to pay attention and to do the work. But it's a different way of thinking, and I think it's more effective. Again, they need to internalize these things. Otherwise, what are they learning for?
Right.
So.
Right. Okay. So along with that, I would love to have you share a personal story of a life schooling day that didn't go as you planned or as you expected, but it's still, and I'm sure you've had some, I know I have, even though I wasn't using a life schooling approach per se, but it still offered valuable lessons.
Yeah. So it's funny because, again, as I was thinking through these questions, I just put down every one of them. It's like every day seems to go crazy. And again, I am not that great at planning. We have some routines that are set, but right now during this busy season where I've written this book and I'm trying to launch it and I'm speaking places and doing all this stuff, it's been extra chaotic. And thankfully, one of the interesting things is that Corbin, my youngest, he's really stepped up. And when I told him, you get to schedule your own days, he's like, that's great. Like he's all excited about it. And he didn't do so great at first. But then I'm like, okay, well, there's certain things you have to do. Or if you don't want to do them, tell me what your alternative is and why. Again, this gives ownership. He can plead his case. I really want to work on computer programming today because I've got this great idea for this game I'm going to make, whatever. It's taking ownership of the scheduling himself because I'm not good at that. And he's actually surprised me. He's done a great job. But the other day, so this is a very busy season for me. And the other day I was just thinking he's slacked off a bit and I don't feel like he's getting a lot done with his days. And so it was the night before and I'm like, I don't even know what we're doing tomorrow. And I just prayed. I'm like, Lord, would you please help us to like get a hold of this schedule tomorrow and figure something out that he can do? And so the next day, I can't tell you that I like came up with this wonderful idea, because I didn't. It was just the Lord. And again, his grace is just so great. But Corbin, for some reason, so we started, I was very determined that day we are going to start with the word. That's one thing that is consistent, or I try to be consistent. I'm not perfect by any means, but starting with the word. And so we did a little devotional together, and then we like to read. There's a certain news that comes to our inbox. This guy has a Substack, Christian lawyer. It's really good. So I was like, we're going to read through that today. Read through that. Well, one of the stories just spun him off in a direction of end times stuff and Revelation. And so I go and I've had some things to do. I'm sitting there working, and he's over at the kitchen table reading. And I checked in with him. He's like, I'm reading Revelation. Well, a little while later, he read in the entire book of Revelation. And I didn't tell him, go read Revelation. Again, this was something that it was like there was an interest that was sparked. And he went and sat down and read the Bible for I think it was hours. So, yeah, just ask the Lord to help you is, I think, the biggest key. He will, because he doesn't want our children to fail. And we just, again, we just do our best. And even if our best is kind of pathetic, like mine often is, he just meets us. He meets us where we are. So that's one example that comes from very recent past.
Well, that was an excellent one. I love that. Well, I know that there are parents who are very curious about this approach, but they're nervous about trying it. So what is one small step that they can take today even, or whenever they decide that they're going to try it, to move toward a life schooling approach?
I think that's another great question, Melanie. And the thing I would say is, first of all, just start small, start somewhere. For me, I would think that just take one day a week when you say, there's nothing on this schedule for today. We're not going to run around anywhere. This is maybe Friday. Fridays are good days for something like this. But give them ownership of that day and tell them, here are my general guidelines. I want you to be learning. I want you to be able to tell me what you learned. And I want you to pursue whatever passion you have. Obviously, be careful if it's like playing video games. That's, there are more productive things. This is one thing we always taught our children too, is your time is valuable. Use your time wisely. We drilled that into them so much so I think in some ways they didn't know how to rest when they grew up. But help them to find what those productive things are. You can put some kind of guidelines on it, but see what they'll do on their own. They might surprise you. If you give them that time to just, this is your day and you're going to pursue your gifts. You're going to pursue the things that you are talented in. What resources do you need? Invest, if they love art, buy some real professional art supplies. That's not an expense, that's an investment, and look at it as curriculum. The same that you would look at, with whatever their gifts are. Take your curriculum budget and use it for that, because that is part of their learning. It's their life schooling. So that would be, I think, a really good way to start to move this direction and just see how it goes.
Yeah. And that can just be really exciting. I mean, I would just say, for my own experience, I think my kids did their own life schooling and just, they just kind of drug me along.
Yeah.
To make that happen. But it was homeschooling itself and just really having a passion for learning and my willingness to be flexible to accommodate that, because I'm still that way. When I do my devotions in the morning, I will just go off on a rabbit trail of, it's like, now what does this mean? And, and I mean, I love that. It is.
Yeah, we're still life schooling.
Exactly.
It never
It's
ends.
such a blessing. It's such
Yeah.
a blessing. And, that is one thing maybe I would add to what you're saying, which is just so good, is that I think if you kind of light the fire,
Mm-hmm.
your kids might continue to feed it so that you don't feel like, oh, I have to constantly be figuring out what they need to be doing.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
they
Oh, yeah.
they'll direct you.
Oh, they will. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, high school for us was really outside the box. My oldest loved computer programming and he just ran with that. Half the time I mean, we had great filters on our computer. People ask me about that, so I could let him run with it. My husband's in IT, so we're, we're set on all that. But he would spend hours working on programming to the point that he did become an expert. And to me, that's the whole goal, is help your children while they have time, while they're in your home, to be able to become experts. And they'll run with it. So he truly became an expert, and that's how he got his first job and quickly moved up to a better, higher paying job. And it's just been amazing to watch that, because he could do things other people couldn't, because he had so much time to just pursue that. And it's such a
Yes,
gift we can give our children, to have that time.
absolutely. I love it. And I really appreciate your testimony with your oldest son. I think that will inspire people. So
It works.
yes, it does. It does. So I would love to have you tell us now where our listeners can find your book and how they can connect with you online.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to. I'll show you. I just happen to have a book sitting right here. This is my book, and it is available. I don't know if the light is kind of glaring, but it's available on Amazon. You can look it up that way, Life Schooling, or you can go to lifeschoolingbook.com and you can get it there. So those are the two places. It comes out in paperback on June 5th. Right now it's on Kindle for just $2.99, so that's a great option if you're budget conscious or you like to have it on your Kindle. There's a free Kindle app, by the way. Some people don't know that. So even if you don't have Kindle, you can purchase the Kindle version and read it still. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so that's how they can get a hold of that. As far as I have a blog, it's called lifeasalifeschooler.com. So you can also connect with me that way.
Wonderful. And are you on any social media?
I'm on Facebook. I pretend to be on Instagram, but I don't do a whole lot there. I would like to. It's so my thing. I would think I would. It's so visual and fun. But right now I'm primarily on Facebook. And again, you can just look up Life Schooling. We have a wonderful group that's very interactive. People ask questions, and it's just a great place to connect with other people doing this crazy life schooling.
Well, fantastic. And I will be dropping the links to all of those resources in the show notes for this episode. Danielle, thank you so much for joining me and for writing this book. I know that it is going to be a fantastic resource for people who are looking to homeschool outside of the box.
Yes. Well, it was a God thing, Melanie. He truly did lead like every step of the way. I have so many stories about that. But it's a blessing to be on your show, and I just appreciate you inviting me.
To find the links to Life Schooling and other resources Danielle has created, visit the show notes page at homeschoolsanity.com/lifeschooling. Have a happy homeschool week. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. I hope something you heard was encouraging. If you have a personal question to follow up, don't hesitate to message me. I'm at Homeschool Sanity on social media. Be sure to check my free resource page at homeschoolsanity.com/resource and find Sanity Saving Curriculum at funtolearnbooks.com. This has been a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network.